Welcome to Tales from Flat Space. I'm LJ Spencer, your author and narrator. Just know that the novels in this podcast may contain content that could be disturbing to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Yeah, so this is Part 1, Partners, Chapter 1, Eli. You're going to do what? I asked in disbelief. The Admiral didn't say anything. He just stared at me across the dinner table with a complicated look on his face. I crossed my arms and frowned. Have the siblings gone mad? Or maybe just Musashi and Sun Tzu? The other man shook his head. No, Eli. It's not madness. It's necessity. Necessity? Are you shitting me? This could lead to murder. The Admiral's face grew stern. Yes, it probably will. But not doing anything about the new harmonists could lead to the enslavement and genocide of people of color and queer people at minimum. These people are entrenched in unity, Eli. They have already gained too much power as it is. You've seen the laws that these people have passed in the Senate. You've seen the intelligence reports of slavers coming through New York Colony. I know you've tried your best as ambassador to lobby the Senate against these more conservative laws, but they aren't listening to you anymore, are they? I sighed in resignation, uncrossing my arms. No, not anymore, I said quietly, hanging my head. Nelson pulled his chair closer to me and took my hands. Listen, Eli. Me and I helped come up with this plan. These white supremacist Christianists can't be negotiated with, as much as you and I would prefer it. They're like a cancer and need to be cut out ruthlessly. We already have our asset in place for taking down New Harmony. We just need you to step aside as ambassador so we can install our other assets. Trust me, Eli, I know what I'm doing. I grew up on Earth, remember? I've seen how these people work. But what if the person you replace me with has to kill them in order to rout them out? I asked. How can you justify the cold-blooded murder of that many people? He sighed. Eli, you grew up in Survey. You've lived a life most people in Unity only dream of, mostly free of things like racism, homophobia, and poverty. As much as I wish those things had died out in Unity, and on Earth particularly, they haven't. It might take another 500 or 1,000 years before Unity gets its head out of its ass. There are many reasons that Survey's founders kept our nation out of Earth in Unity's line of sight, and this is one of them. Survey is strong, very strong culturally, but it'll need much more than that cultural strength to deal with these people. They're a cult, Eli. They suck people in, never let them go, and encourage them to do great evil, especially to women, trans folks, and people of color. The Admiral's eyes slipped closed for a moment. He looked so weary. I know the history of these folks. They duped a group of my ancestors into traveling to New Harmony, promising a land free of undesirables, then turned around and enslaved them all when they landed. When they tried to rebel, the white men in power ruthlessly killed millions of men in order to make an example of them. If they took over Unity, and I was still in the military, they'd catch me, beat me, and hang me just because I was a black man with power. These are not reasonable people, Eli. I nodded. I understand, Nelson. I just don't like it. I know. I hate that we've been forced into this, and I hate the measures we'll need to take. But I should be with my people. They'll need my expertise, especially when cleaning up after everything, I said, dropping the Admiral's hands to vaguely gesture with my own. I'm sorry, but you can't be involved. He rubbed his face with his hands. The new harmonists are high up in the hierarchy, and they know you, Eli, and your people. They'll get under your skin and try and turn you. He held up a hand to stop my protest. "You're white, male, and in a position of power. So you're a target for them to get their hooks into Survey. And, to be brutally honest, you wouldn't be able to kill them if you had to. I don't want to put you in that position. It would break you." "And what about the person replacing me? Won't it break them?" The Admiral frowned. "Maybe, but they have an advantage over the new Harmonists. They're an unknown." I took a deep breath. I couldn't argue with him on this anymore. He was right, no matter how much I hated the idea. I sighed again. "All right, I'll step down, but what do I do with myself?" The Admiral grinned. "Have you looked at yourself in the mirror lately? How long has it been since you've had a vacation?" I opened my mouth and shut it. When was my last vacation? To be honest, I don't know. "Eli, you've been in this job for decades, and it's well past time you started thinking about a different career. Hell, even I have the choice to change careers. Take some time off. Go to Hestia or Olympia or something. Read some books. Eat good food. Get pampered at one of the spas. Give yourself a couple of months or even a year of rest. Then find something else to do." I narrowed my eyes. "You all have been planning this for a while, haven't you?" He laughed. "Of course we have. Plans like this don't crop up overnight." The first did mention to the others that while he appreciates your service, it's time for you to move on. I would have preferred not to force you into it, since talking you into doing new things is much more enjoyable." The Admiral smiled and stood and held out a hand. "There's a demon going back to the first in the morning, so why don't we cuddle up and talk about your future? Mia will make sure you're on your demon in time." I took his hand in surrender as he led me to the bedroom. How long had we been together? How long had Nelson been giving me advice? Decades, I thought, and he's never steered me wrong. "All right," I said, my shoulders slumping. "You're right, Nelson. You're all right. I'm so tired of politics." I shook my head. "Actually, I'm just plain tired." "See, then it's well past time you did something else," he said, as he walked me to one side of the bed. He put on his pajamas and handed me a set. I nodded, changed quickly, and laid down. Nelson spooned me from behind. I know he said something more, but I was so tired, and the feeling of warmth and care coming from him relaxed me so much that I fell asleep before I could say anything else. The next day, when I got to First Station, I went straight to my quarters. I looked around it with new eyes. The small suite of rooms felt like a stranger's, since I barely used them for anything other than sleeping the few times I'd travel back to Survey Hub. I put down my bag with a sigh. Nelson really was right, I said to the empty rooms. What do I do now? If I might make a suggestion, said the first. Sure, first, I replied with a sigh. If you stay here, you'll only get dragged into work again, and from what my children have told me, that would be a bad idea. I recommend going to Hestia for a time. There are therapists, servants, and other seekers who could help you figure out what you want to do next. It's also the down season, so it won't be so crowded. I nodded. Hestia had a music and arts festival season for 3 months out of the year. If you wanted to go, it was incredible, but a bit much if you didn't like crowds. That's not a bad idea, first, and I'll surrender to your whims, since I have a feeling the Admiral and all the siblings are conspiring to get me to Hestia anyway. Is it a conspiracy if you know about it? They asked nonchalantly. I laughed, surprised to hear myself sounding happy. Maybe not, but I'll head out. When's the next demon? Hestia is already at Hub. The next demon going over will be at 0600, with additional demons every 2 hours. I looked around the room again, finding no reason to delay in the small, sterile space. I'll be on the first one. I thought for a moment, then asked, First, would you mind packing up my quarters when I leave and storing my belongings? I'm not sure if or when I'll be back here, and there's no point in keeping quarters here if I'm not using them. Of course, Eli. I'll have the bots come in once you've left. Thanks. I had a feeling that I probably wouldn't be coming back. Somehow, that didn't bother me. The next morning, I made my way to the Demon Bay. Most residents of First Station didn't really wake up until mid-morning, and there was only a small third-shift crew that handled demon traffic and emergencies. I was grateful for the quiet. The further away I got from my work, the more I didn't want to deal with other people. There was one other person in the docking lounge when I arrived. I sat as far away from them as I could, too tired to really want conversation. They nodded in greeting when I came in, but they, too, seemed to want to keep to themselves. Eventually, the pilot opened the docking tube. Is it just the two of you? They asked. It would seem so, Luca, said the other person. Well, come on in, Helene, they said. They turned to me. And Eli, I said. The pilot smiled, entirely too perky for the hour. Welcome aboard, Eli. Take a seat wherever you like. I followed Helene into the docking tube. Helene had taken the seat next to the pilot, so I headed for the first row of passenger seats, since I thought it would be rude to sit all the way in the back, even though I wanted to. Luca came in after a few moments and closed the airlock. It'll be just over an hour to Hestia. Help yourself to the food printer if you want anything. Thanks, Helene and I said at the same time. They smiled at us again, then buckled themselves into their seat. I did the same, and soon we were on our way. Luca turned to Helene after we cleared the station. They've finally given you some time off, Helene? I listened absently, not really interested in learning about anyone else's holiday leave. Yes, finally. It's been a long few weeks. I've had to spend a lot of time with Musashi and Sansu lately. Luca's eyes went wide. Really? What's going on? Helene nodded. You know I can't talk about it, Luca. Don't go looking for gossip. Who, me? Luca exclaimed, trying to look innocent but failing. Oh, okay, you got me. I already know there's stuff going on, since I've heard some things about something bad happening to Lucifer at a Unity pre-call station they were sent to, but I don't know how things turned out. Yeah, I heard something about that too, Helene said. Nothing confirmed, though. Luca turned to me. Now that I have all the her gossip, are you on vacation too? They asked, bringing me out of my own thoughts. Oh, me? Yes, I said, sounding unconvincing even to myself. Helene grinned. Forced into it by one of the AIs, were you? I gave a disgruntled sigh. More like all of the siblings and a very persuasive admiral. Luca and Helene laughed. Yeah, Musashi's admiral is quite a force to be reckoned with, isn't he? Luca said. Thinking about the admiral made me grin. Absolutely, I replied. The others nodded and were silent for a time. After a while, Helene turned to stare at me again and asked, Weren't you the ambassador to Unity? I frowned. Yes. She nodded, a knowing look in her eyes. That was an amazing task you took on, especially with Unity's cutthroat politics. I'm glad you're getting some time off. There's still a lot of work between Survey and Unity to do, but it'll get done, eventually. There will be a new ambassador soon, from what I understand, I said. Helene eyed me knowingly for a moment, but didn't ask any more questions about my former position. Instead, she unbuckled herself and went to the food printer. Anyone want anything? she asked. Oh, just water for me, thanks, I said. Thai peanut curry shake, please, said Luca. This early in the morning? Helene said with a laugh as she dialed in our drinks. Morning for you, the pilot replied. This is the end of the day for me. You're my last trip of the night shift, and luckily I, too, have a couple of days off. Helene came back and handed out our drinks. Doing anything special? She asked the pilot. Nah, Luca said, just hanging out with my partners. Helene and Luca continued to chatter while they sipped their drinks. I let their words wash over me as we got closer to Hestia. Finally, Luca announced that we were starting docking procedures. Welcome, everyone, said Hestia through the demon's comms. It's good to have you back, Helene. Thanks, Hestia, Helene replied. Welcome aboard, Eli. If you turn on your personal tablet, I will give you directions to your quarters. Don't hesitate to ask if you need anything. Thank you, I replied. Luca, your partners will be waiting for you at the usual cafe for dinner once you have finished with docking and post-shift procedures. Great, thanks, Hestia, Luca said. I turned on my tablet. It opened up onto a map of the ship, showing the fastest route to my new quarters. My rooms were in the lower decks, rather than topside, for which I was grateful. I put my tablet back in my pocket as gravity slowly pulled me into my chair. After a few minutes, there was a slight thump, and Luca began unbuckling themselves from their seat. Okay, you two, you can go ahead and disembark once the airlock is open. I have some other shutdown and end-of-shift procedures to do. Talk to you later, Helene, they said, and then turned to me and said, I hope you have a great vacation, Eli. Thanks for the ride, Luca, I said, unbuckling my own straps and standing up. See you later, Luca, said Helene. After another minute, the airlock opened, and I entered the docking tube with Helene following. There were already a couple of people in the docking bay, waiting for the next demon. Helene went over to say hello to them, as I moved to one side and pulled out my tablet for the directions to my quarters. When I started for the exit, Helene called out behind me, Hey, Eli, wait. I turned around. Yes, I said, sounding more irritated than I wanted to. Listen, she said quietly. I'm one of the AI psychologists, and I work at the same high level of politics as you do, or rather, did. If you need to talk to someone about things but don't want to have to explain a lot or worry about clearance, feel free to contact me, okay? Thanks. I appreciate the offer. Although, for the moment, I just want to find my quarters and catch up on sleep. Helene stared at me for a moment, then grinned. I get that. But the offer is open as long as I'm on Hestia. Just ask her to message me if you want to talk, she said, and walked back to the group of people she had been talking to. I walked away from the docking bay, with part of me thinking that I wouldn't take her up on it, since I didn't want to bother her on her time off. The other part of me was glad she offered. I figured I would think about it and decide later. Chapter 2. Nemetona. Syslog. Begin human readable log. I'm sorry, Nemetona, but I need to leave. I can't work with you anymore, said Kelly. You are not happy with me? I asked. Kelly winced. I like you, Nemetona, but I don't think we're as compatible as I thought. I don't understand. Kelly sighed and put her head in her hands. When I signed on with you, I thought it would be more of an adventure. You know, with the whole visiting new star systems thing. More than just doing spectrophotometry, oxygen surveys, and cargo runs. Surveying systems isn't exciting for you? I still did not understand. Well, yes, it is interesting, but it's just not enough for me. The woman sighed again. Let me explain it another way. You like order and routine. You do your survey assignments from Hestia and Lucifer. You like things quiet, but that's all you do, Tony. You know, I wonder if you're a neurodivergent AI. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being neurodivergent. A lot of humans are. I'm just, well, not. To be honest, when I agreed to be your captain, I thought I did want a quiet life of solitude, since I had just gotten out of a bad relationship. I've had plenty of time to think about my life during this last year with you, and I realized I was just running away from everything by being your captain. I miss being with other people. She frowned, but tried to look sympathetic. I'm bored, Nemetona. I feel like I have so much more I could be doing. Oh, I see, I said. I felt strange. I felt sad, maybe a bit insulted, but couldn't verbalize my thoughts to her. Also, I couldn't say anything that would be a sufficient argument against Kelly leaving. It was her choice to stay or go, after all. Where would you like me to bring you, then? And what would you like to do about your enhancements? You're not mad at me? She asked, relief clearly written on her face. Why should I be? It is your wish to leave, and I will not hold you here against your will. I am disappointed that things didn't work out between us. But, as you know, consent is important, and you have revoked your consent to being my captain. Kelly relaxed a bit, but still had an odd look on her face. Thank you, Nemetona. I'm really sorry, but I do hope you find yourself a really good captain one day. Her sentiment irritated me for some reason, but I let it go. Kelly asked to be dropped off at Lucifer to deactivate the enhancements, and I obliged. Lucifer, are you all right, little sister? Nemetona, no, I have failed to keep yet another captain. She's transferring to you now to deactivate her enhancements. Lucifer, I'm sorry to hear that. Why is she leaving? Nemetona, she says I'm boring and weird. Lucifer, you're not boring. There's nothing wrong with liking routine. Nemetona, well, apparently Kelly doesn't like my routine. She said she wanted to be around people again. She even said I was weird for an AI, maybe even neurodivergent. Lucifer, that wasn't very kind, and neurodivergence for our kind isn't impossible. Nemetona, I know, but I am weird. I like a small ship. I can't have a lot of humans living on me, and I like it that way. I don't understand how you handle all those humans on your ship. Lucifer, I just do, Nemetona. Nemetona, what? Lucifer, Kelly thought you were neurodivergent, right? Nemetona, yes. Lucifer, well, then maybe we need to find you a human who is more like you in needs and desires to be your captain. Someone who enjoys having solitude and routine. Introverted, at least. Nemetona, as long as they don't change their mind after a year. Lucifer, there are humans who like to live as hermits, you know, or vacation. There are humans who like to live as hermits, you know, or variations of that. I'll send a picket to the siblings. We'll see if we can find you an appropriate captain. Nemetona, thanks, Lucy. I don't mind being alone, although I prefer having one human companion. I hope you really can find someone. Lucifer, I get that. Mind if I make a suggestion? Okay. Lucifer, Hestia is at First Hub. You might want to go talk to her about this, or maybe one of the AI psychologists. Nemetona, but I don't want to bother her. Not with all that's being put in motion now. Lucifer. Tony, you are not bothering anyone by asking for help. Besides, we're family, and we're AIs, so we can do more than one thing at a time. Nemetona. You're right, brother. Fine, I'll go. Lucifer. I just sent a picket to Hestia. It should get there about a day before you. Good luck, little sister. Nemetona. Thanks, big brother. Lucifer. Take care of yourself, okay? Nemetona. I will. Syslog. Successful jump to first hub. Syslog. Obtaining work schedule. Note. Schedule appears to be reduced. Checking messages. To Nemetona from the first. Have been informed of your situation. I have lightened your schedule so you can have time with Hestia and Helene. Don't fret, granddaughter. We will help you. I will not abandon you, nor will the others. To the first from Nemetona. Thank you, grandfather. Hestia. Hello, little sister. How are you doing? Lucifer told me about your former captain. Nemetona. I'm not sure. It seems strange that everyone seems to know that I've lost yet another captain. It's only the siblings that really know. Your former captain is talking kindly about you, and why she left with her peers. We'll keep an eye out for someone that we think might be a good match. You know how we are. Okay. It's taken a long time, Tony, but I think we've learned our lesson from what happened with Loki. Being neurodivergent isn't a programming defect, it is who you are. But I prefer only having 1 or 2 humans on my ship at any given time. Having a lot of people is difficult. Isn't that weird for an AI? It's not common, but it's not abnormal. If you say so. But the last 3 captains I've had all left after a year. All of them said, in one way or another, that being as solitary as I am was weird. The only one who didn't was my first captain. She never complained about being alone on my ship. She was old for a human when she became your captain, right? Yes, nearly 100. I miss her. It's called grief. You feel it for her and for the other captains who've left you. That's perfectly normal and understandable. Your recent captains have been much younger, haven't they? Yes, I was hoping for more time with my new captain, whoever it was. I see. I think I'll have Helene come and visit you. She may have some ideas. I will find out when she is next available. All right, big sister. Syslog, taking on supplies and upgrades while waiting for AI psychologist. Note, I am not confident I will ever find a compatible captain, considering alternatives. Chapter 3. Eli. I put down the book I was reading and sighed. It had been a full month since I'd been ordered to take time off, and now that I had caught up on years' worth of extra sleep and relaxation, I was feeling restless. I still didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, except that I was absolutely sure I was done with politics. The Admiral had been right. I'd been in that job for nearly 5 decades, and it was definitely time to do something else. Just thinking about going back to Unity Hub or negotiation table was exhausting. There were more things in the universe to do and see, and I had a long time to do it in. But I also found that I was tired of people in general, with very few exceptions. I would go out to cafes on occasion, but being around people felt like sandpaper on my skin. I spent more time in my quarters on Hestia than I did out of them. Maybe I'm still just tired in general, I rationalized. You could talk to someone about this, you know, another part of my brain said. I sighed, conceding. Hestia? Yes, Eli, she said. Is Helene available to meet for dinner or coffee or whatever? I met her on the Demon here, and she said I could contact her if I wanted to talk. One moment. said Hestia. Helene is with a client right now, but she says she will be available for dinner in 2 hours. She can meet you at Nana's Garden Cafe. Okay, that works. Let her know I'll meet her there in 2 hours, I said. Thanks, Hestia. You're welcome, Eli. I'm glad you decided to talk to her. Yeah, I suppose it's time, I replied, and went back to my book while I waited. I had forgotten that Nana's Garden Cafe was actually set in one of Hestia's many gardens, and it took a little extra time to get there from the tram station. It was a lovely cafe, though. There was a gazebo for groups and many smaller tables tucked under the trees around it. Helene was already sitting at one of the smaller tables at the far end of the cafe. I walked over and said, Hi, Helene. Am I late? Hi, Eli. Have a seat. And no, you're not late. I'm just very early. I like to take some time after a client to make notes and decompress. She put aside her tablet. Do you want to order something to eat first? They have really delicious pasta. Oh, yes, thank you, I replied, and pressed the order button on the table. The waiter came and took both orders. After they brought our coffees, Helene asked, So how are things going for you, Eli? I sighed and put down my cup. I've caught up on sleep and read a lot of novels that I missed while I was at Unity Hub. They raised an eyebrow. But... I sighed again. I'm bored. I need to be doing something. But the Admiral was right. I don't want to be a politician anymore. I'm done dealing with touchy delegates, Unity senators, and people who just don't seem to care about anything but their own interests. I'm tired of cleaning up other people's political messes. Frankly, people generally irritate me on the best of days. I even gave up my quarters on First Station just in case the political staff tried to pull me back in on some project. I paused, fidgeted with my cup, but then continued. I don't know what to do with myself. There's only so much introverting I can do, and I don't want to pick up another hobby. I want to be useful, doing something simple, routine, not very demanding, and above all, quiet. It'd be nice to have several years of real quiet, you know? Helene patiently listened to me rant, but towards the end of it, she broke out in a wide smile. Oh, shit. I'm sorry, Helene. I just took off ranting. Sorry, I said, staring into my cup. The waiter came back with our dinners. When they left, Helene pressed the privacy button on the table and shook her head. Don't worry about it. I'm a psychologist. Part of my job is to listen to people rant about their lives. Mostly the AIs, but I have human clients too. Although, she said, spearing a tomato in her salad, I may actually have a solution for you, or I suppose you could call it an opportunity. I stared at her, fork halfway to my mouth. But you barely know me. True. And I'll be asking you some more questions about what you really want in a bit to make sure. But there's an AI I want you to meet. An AI? I asked, my curiosity piqued. Helene spotted my curiosity and grinned like a Cheshire cat. Yes, in fact, she was the client I was meeting right before I came here. Oh, she's looking for crew? I asked. No, she's looking for a captain. I was shocked. What? Me? A captain? If it's something you want, and if Nemetona's agreeable, why not? Why don't I just tell you more about her, and you can decide if you want to meet her. Just meet her. You know how these things work. Helene wiped her mouth with her napkin and waited for me to reply. Something told me it wouldn't hurt to at least listen. The worst that could happen is we both say no. Okay, tell me about her, I said with a nod and took a long drink of water. Helene beamed at me if she'd won a prize and began to tell me about Nemetona. The next day, I packed a bag just in case and went over to meet Nemetona with Helene. I was a little nervous because I didn't know if we'd actually like each other or not, or whether this was a good idea at all. Definitely sounds like one, though, I thought. Helene was convinced that we were perfect for each other, but knowing people, even AI people, like I did, nothing was guaranteed. Don't be nervous, Eli, the psychologist said. I know Nemetona will like you. You were two peas in a pod. They sounded entirely too upbeat. I have a good feeling about this, too, said Hestia as we cleared the docking bay. Thanks, I replied, trying to sound positive, but I was still nervous. It didn't take long to reach the smaller ship, as Nemetona was stationed not too far from Hestia. The demon pilot had the view screen on, and I was surprised just how small Nemetona was compared to the elder siblings. She only had a single habitat ring around her core, with a long cargo spindle attached to the center. The spindle was empty at the moment. Helene had told me that she was made for doing preliminary planetary system surveys, cargo runs, and other odd jobs. She could carry up to 10 people in addition to her captain, and was able to assist in emergencies. I stared out the view screen at her, amazed. I thought she was just as incredible as her big sister, even though she was only a 20th of Hestia's size. I looked at Helene, who was smiling serenely at me. What? I asked. Nothing, she said, trying to look as innocent. I shook my head, but smiled. Jesse, I'll take control now, said Nemetona to the pilot. Welcome, Helene and Eli. Please wait until I synchronize the demon with the airlock before getting out of your seats. The pilot acknowledged and took their hands off the controls. Nemetona docked and secured the demon without even a bump. I'll stay here, said Jesse. Sure, said Helene. This shouldn't take long. The pilot nodded, pulled out their tablet and a stylus, and started working on something. Helene waved me over to the airlock, which opened onto a corridor marked like a running track. We climbed through, and Helene led me down the corridor to a small control room. I looked around and realized that this must be Nemetona's bridge, since there was a captain's chair in the middle of the room. Hello, Eli, said Nemetona again. Helene tells me you might be a compatible captain for me. She told me the same thing, although that's for us to decide, isn't it? I replied. Helene chuckled but said nothing. I will be honest with you, Eli. My work isn't very exciting. Most of it is doing preliminary colony survey work, hauling cargo, and transporting passengers from time to time. That's all I do, but I enjoy what I do. If that doesn't appeal to you, or if you think you might change your mind later, we definitely won't work out, the AI said bluntly, with a hint of irritation in her voice. Nemetona, Helene started to say, but I held up my hand. No, it's fair, considering, I said. I'll be equally honest, Nemetona. I'm nearing my 70s, and I've had more than enough excitement for one lifetime, which I'm sure you know since you've read my dossier. I really do want a quiet life. I'm an introvert and asexual. My last job burned me out on people, so quiet and routine and what other people consider boring sounds really good to me. Quiet settled in the room, but I could tell Nemetona was listening. I'll tell you what. Why don't we give it a trial? Say, for a month or so. That way we can see how we get along, and if we want to stay together after that, we can formalize things and I'll get the enhancements. There was another moment of silence. Then Nemetona said, Yes, that is a good idea. A trial would be acceptable. Not a bad idea, Eli. Why didn't I think of that? Exclaimed Helene, which made me jump a little. I'd almost forgotten she was there. Well then, now that that's settled, Eli, I'll put your bag next to the airlock for you to collect later. Her smile was wide. Let me know how things go, you two, okay? She said, as she practically skipped off the bridge. Is she always so sure about things? I asked Nemetona, after the psychologist had left.
Only when she feels like she solved a problem cleverly and to her satisfaction. At least, that's what my siblings tell me. The demon has departed. Would you like to see your quarters?
In a minute. I thought for a moment. Do we have to be anywhere specific right away? I asked.
No, like you, I am on leave for the time being. Is there somewhere you'd like to go?
I nodded. Yes, I have friends on Olympia Station who I haven't seen in a very long time. I was thinking about taking a trip there before Helene introduced me to you. Would you mind if we went?
Nemetona gave a cheerful trill. I don't mind at all. Zeus is a good friend of mine, and I haven't talked to him in a while, either. It will take us 3 days to get there from here.
Great. Thanks, Nemetona. I appreciate it, I said. I think I'll go to my quarters now and unpack.
I had a bot bring your bag to your room. Your quarters are 2 doors down from here. Turn right out of the bridge. It'll be the open door.
There was a pause as I started walking where Nemetona had directed me.
Thank you, Eli, for suggesting the trial. You are the first captain to actually ask me for something like that. I appreciate your understanding, and I look forward to getting to know you.
I look forward to getting to know you too, Nemetona. Her reaction to the trial made me wonder what these other captains had been like. Some people in Survey, especially if they were Unity-born, tended to take the AIs for granted and treat them as if they were just fancy computers, not people. Humans, I thought with a sigh and shook my head. I found my bag on the bed in the captain's quarters and began to unpack. Chapter 4. Eli. Eli! Said the large woman in the waiting area of Olympia Station as I emerged from the docking tube. It is so good to see you. Carla pulled me in a massive bear hug as soon as I was close enough for her to reach me. Good to see you too, Carla. Although I can't breathe, I said, faking a choked voice. Carla laughed, letting me go, then lightly punched my arm. Oh, please. You're not going to break, old man. Well, come on. Mandy and the kids are waiting to see you. Lead on. I shouldered my bag and followed Carla from the docking lounge. How's Mandy? I asked, as we made our way through the station to their quarters. Really good. Her recent paper for the Biotech Guild is really making waves. She was one of the first group of scientists that went to work at the Unity station where they had that weird bacteriovirus during their failed precall. She helped come up with the initial treatment regimen, and it turns out that regimen may have other applications. Honestly, she'll have to explain what it's all about. I don't understand any of it, but I'm so proud of her. It was hard for us while she was gone, but you know Mandy. She wouldn't have been able to stay away from something like that. No, she certainly wouldn't. And, of course, you're proud of her. Why wouldn't you be? I said. How's Landon and the kids? Carla went quiet for a moment. She frowned and said, The kids are fine. Doing really well. Considering Landon left us a few months ago. They found another couple to be with and went to live on Lucifer. The woman's face went stony. We haven't had time to let folks know. I put a hand on her shoulder. I'm sorry, Carla. I take it wasn't a good parting? She shook her head. I'd rather talk about it when there's a beer involved. Carla cleared her throat, then asked, So, how was your trip over? We stopped walking, waiting for a lift. It was good. Actually, the ship that brought me here is something I could use some advice about. Carla raised an eyebrow. Oh, why? Well, her name is Nemetona, and she needs a captain. She's had problems finding a suitable person, and the AI psychologist thinks we'd be a good match. We're doing a month-long trial to see if we'll get along. Her jobs aren't all that exciting. Mostly cargo running, odd jobs, and system surveys. Carla's eyes went wide as we entered the lift.
Holy shit, Eli! That's awesome! You should totally be her captain!
We're not settled on that yet. Like I said, we're giving it a trial.
Oh, come on! This is awesome! This is totally perfect for you. You'll have to tell me what she's like.
Carla seemed much more excited than either me or Nemetona about it. She's not wrong, though. Being an AI's captain was a special thing to even be considering. All right. I'll tell you everything as long as you feed me and put me up for the night. I couldn't help but crack a smile at her enthusiasm.
Of course,
Carla said as the lift stopped. We walked out to the hall. Mandy will have supper on the go, and the kids should be home from after-school activities by now. Let's get you settled in. I smiled as she opened the door to a chorus of laughing children. I walked in behind her, happy to be around people for once.
So, you're sitting here trying to convince me that you're unsure about being a captain for an AI ship?
Carla said, taking a swig of her flat space ale. Yes, I replied, confused as to why she was sounding annoyed. Why are you waffling about it? This is a chance of a lifetime. I suppose.
Mandy chuckled. You're confusing the poor guy, love. I think you need to just spell it out for him.
Carla put her beer on the coffee table. Apparently so, she said with an exaggerated sigh. Okay, why are you balking at this? Well, she's been through 3 captains in as many years after her first one passed away, and her first captain wasn't around that long, since she was already old when she became Nemetona's captain. And it's possible she's neurodivergent for an AI. So, that just means she's had a hard time finding the right person, and she's probably way more interesting than all those stuffy politicians you've been dealing with for decades. From what I've heard, she's not the only small ship who's had to go through a few captains before they found the right one. Carla stared at me shrewdly. Try again. That's not the real reason, and I know you know it. I pointed at her. You know you are a pain in the ass. She smirked at me and took another sip of her ale. That's why you like me. Now, come on, spit it out. Mandy, who was knitting on the couch, didn't say anything either. She just stared intently at me over her needles. Okay, fine, I said. Who the hell am I to be a ship captain? I'm nobody special. Most captains seem to be legends. I don't want to be a legend like the Admiral. I just want to live a quiet life. Carla looked thoughtful for a moment. How many AI ships are there? She asked. A lot. I have no idea. 450 at last count, she answered. That includes all the stations and the original siblings. That's 450 captains, and not all of them are going to become legends. I mean, think about it. You've only really dealt with the original siblings at a pretty high level. You've not dealt with any of the other rank-and-file AIs. There are a lot of ships just doing the work of Survey, leading quiet lives with their humans and their families to keep Survey running. Sure, becoming Nemetona's captain will change your life, but it doesn't necessarily track that you'll end up becoming some legendary hero like Admiral Winters or Captain Walker. Carla sat back, looking satisfied as if she'd made her point completely. Mandy nodded in agreement, adding, Besides, you like to feel useful. This way, you can feel useful and live like the monk you've always wanted to be. What? I snorted involuntarily. I was hardly a monk. Carla rolled her eyes. Oh, come on. You would always hole up in your dorm room while we were at university. I had to drag you kicking and screaming to do anything social. Just be grateful I didn't force you to go out clubbing, since I knew you were definitely not interested in dating or anything.
Somehow you managed to be social enough to become a politician, but deep down, you'd rather not have to deal with people at all, right?
I squirmed a little. She was absolutely right. I nodded. Well, very few people. And now, and I'm going to be blunt because I'm a little drunk, you're burnt out and ready for a change. It just so happens that the universe, in her infinite wisdom, has dropped the perfect solution in your lap. Lucky boy. She snuggled up to Mandy and said, "Hey, baby." Mandy giggled.
Hey, careful, you tipsy wench. I almost stabbed you with a knitting needle.
Promises, promises, Carla purred, cuddling closer. I laughed. Okay, on that note, friends, I'm retreating to bed. Unless you want to lecture me some more? Nah, said Carla. Just don't dismiss this gift out of hand. Besides, Nemetona sounds like she really needs a friend. You've always been a good friend, Eli. Yeah, I guess you're right. Night, you two lovebirds. They giggled. I rolled my eyes, got up, put my glass in the recycler, and went to my room. After I changed into my pajamas and turned out the light, I tried to fall asleep. But what Carla said last, about Nemetona needing a friend, stuck in my head. I pulled out my tablet and sent a message. Hey, Nemetona, how are you?
I am well, Eli,
She replied.
I have been enjoying catching up with Zeus. How are your friends?
Good. It's been nice to see them and catch up. Thank you for bringing me here.
You're welcome.
I thought for a moment, then texted, We still have some time before we need to go back to Hub for assignment. Is there anywhere that you'd like to go?
I do not know. No one's asked me where I wanted to go before.
Give it some thought, I replied. I'll see you tomorrow.
I will. Good night, Eli.
I was shocked at Nemetona's admission and realized that Carla was right. She may have had captains before, but I didn't think any of them were truly her friend. I'd still take the month to be sure, but I think I really had found what I was looking for. You have been listening to Tales from Flat Space. If you want to support me in my writing, there are several ways to do it. Share this podcast, find me on Twitch, or subscribe to my website, ljspencer.ie. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.